G'day and welcome to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. Today we're going to be reviewing round 11 and getting you guys ready for the bye rounds, which are here and upon us. Let's go! G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on Twitter at Ball Boys Fantasy, joined, as always, by Luke Rogerson, coach of the Mighty Oxlongs. How are you, mate?
I'm going good, mate. I woke up this morning, I went in the fantasy app, and they've given me an extra trade this week.
Oh, don't tell anyone.
No, keep that on the down low, mate. I was like,
wraps,
someone's fucked that up. I've got 3 trades, so suckers out there with 2.
Some big moves
3.
coming over here from the Oxlongs.
You'll be guilty.
well, joke's on you, mate. We all had 3 trades, but bye rounds, mate.
Bye rounds. Jeez, I didn't know it was the bye rounds. Nobody's been talking about it.
Yeah, no, it's been hush hush the last few weeks, but yes, round 12 brings us to the first round of the byes, which, if you're switched on.
I'm not.
We'll find out soon. But if you've organised yourself and if you've got good planning and a little luck goes your way, it can be a time where you can seriously rise yourself up the ranks and, separate the boys from the men.
Speaking of luck, you want to talk about your Celtics and the luck of the Irish?
Oh, mate, there's no luck required.
I'm surprised you didn't bring it up off the top, mate. And I'm surprised you're not wearing your Celtics gear.
I'm just keeping a lid on it.
No, mate, you guys are home and host. Game 7.
Hold on. We were watching the game. We were playing some golf on the weekend and some Top Golf. Had the TV up there and we were watching the game, and that Derek White, just 0.1 seconds. They've put the 0.9 back on the clock after reviewing, and the big Celts getting the job done, 1 win away from the finals.
Wild scenes. You having the day off work tomorrow?
I'll be watching the game. I think I'll go to work late, but I'll be here to watch the game. And
treat yourself, mate. Late start.
Yep. And so game 7 tomorrow. Shout out to Cal, who's a Miami Heat fan from the Ball Boys, and I definitely let him know about it after that winner. So big things happening in the NBA. But let's talk about fantasy. Obviously, big weekend that was. How'd your team perform?
I didn't really move anywhere on the ranks. I'm sort of just inside the 10K, which is where I was last week. So I guess I had a pretty average week. It wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Copped a couple of low scores, but I wasn't by myself in that. I know there was a few people there that copped the Darcy, they copped the Fiorini, and they copped the Rat. All 30s,
the triple. I think. I certainly, Rory from the Traders, he was one of those guys, but I'm sure he wasn't alone either.
Yeah, definitely. So I wasn't on my own in having a couple of bad scores, but I was pretty fortunate to hold rank. Yeah.
Yeah, did you get a win in the Content Creators Cup?
Jeppa got me.
Oh,
Jep. Yeah, Jep got me. I think he had a pretty decent captain choice from memory, so my captain choice didn't quite come through for me. But what about yourself and Mitchman? How'd they go?
Yeah, the Mitchman boys, we got up in the Content Creators Cup, which incidentally puts me at the top right now. So tied first in terms of the big head wobble over here.
Wobble off your neck.
Tied first with a few of the boys there in terms of the head-to-head matchup.
Yeah.
Second in the overall rankings after Sanchez's huge week and a captaincy of James Sicily, which we'll touch on later. But
who are you donating the money to?
Oh, mate. Well, let's just putting a lid on it. But
that's not what you were saying 5 minutes ago. Off air.
But just both checks. Just send them my way, Timmy. But yeah, obviously that's a good week and moved up just a few hundred spots. Didn't quite get to the top 1,000, but we're on the edge.
Not a bad spot to be,
mate.
We're
on the edge.
You're showing everyone that hat behind you might not be a fluke. The 124.
The 124, that very legitimate hat. I had a little scout. I think I'm about 300 points away from the 100 ranked team right now. So 300 points over, what do we got? It's round 12. We've got over 12 rounds. Less than 30 points a round. So
you're shitted in.
Yeah, we'll see how we go with these bye rounds. And it was this time last year that I think I was ranked 300th or something like that going into it. By the end of the buys, I think I was ranked 24th. So
here we go.
It was after the buys that, not having Rory Laird, did my season in, but you can make some big moves. So let's get into one of our favourite segments to kick off the show.
And the winner of the Norm Smith Medal.
You're an embarrassment to what you do, mate. You're an embarrassment.
An embarrassment indeed are some of these players. Let's start with the first game of the round, the Sydney versus Carlton matchup on the Friday night, where there wasn't many super fantasy relevant players playing, but you're best on ground. You've got an interesting little one here.
Yeah, well, I picked my bog as just general sliding doors. So to put that in context, I was a little bit kissed, I guess, because I was tossing up whether to trade Hollands or Chincotta.
Yep.
I went with Hollands, who
had
got
a bit more money
score,
on his head.
A bit more money. He ended up with a poor score. He ended up getting subbed. Injured, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
And then
AC John, I'm pretty sure.
And then the reason that I've given this my bog, it's all about me, but the reason I've given this my bog is because not only did I dodge that, but then Carlton also had a couple of other injuries that maybe could open that door back up for Chincotta, who was the one I held.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It could have been disastrous had it gone the other way, but that was my bog.
I think that allowed you to get to like a Weddle instead of settling for the flog of this game, which was Lachlan McAndrew, who obviously pumped out a 66 last week, but this week did much, much worse than that, and I think was at a 12 from memory, and was subbed out, and I dare say we're probably not going to see him.
Yeah.
Sorry, 18 he scored. Put some respect on that man's name, but I don't think we're going to be seeing him come round 13 where we wanted to have him for our bye rounds.
It's a Samson Ryan-like effort, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not the best. So, yeah, lucky to avoid that one. But those who did jump, which we were very skeptical or hesitant to recommend doing on the show, but obviously some people needed their money, and it's why it's risky trading into those cheaper rookies at this time of year.
When we cruise into Saturday, St Kilda and Hawthorn, I've given the bog to James Sicily, but for two reasons. He helped out owners with a 160.
He did. He pleased everyone.
But he helped out non-owners by getting suspended.
Yeah. So we're all just happy with it.
Yeah, we were kind of a bit bummed about the 160, but when he got suspended, he helped us out as well.
Exactly.
So he's a man of the people, old sick dog, so thank you for that.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about him and what we're doing with him later on in the show. And the flog for this game is Jack Steele. I don't know what to do with him in terms of how much of a priority is he as a trade target coming off his bye. Obviously, he's on his bye round now. Is he someone you trade out of? Like, obviously, I think he had ice on the knee a couple weeks back against Adelaide, I think, from memory. The next week pumps out a 120. There was doubt on him all week. Yeah. Everyone's sort of panicking. Some people even traded, ahead of time, because they were a bit concerned. Comes out, scores a 120. This week, no news or anything like that. He plays, I think he goes sub 80, 78 off the top of my head. And just hasn't had a great season so far. Few injuries, and he's battling it out, but maybe it would have been easier if he just was out and we traded him and it was a bit more clear. So hopefully the week off can do him some good, but yeah, just evaluating him a little bit more difficult than it normally would be.
Hard one to read for sure, hey?
It is.
Heading into the next game, Melbourne and Freo. Petrarca was the top scorer in this one, I think, for those people that have got him. He's a little bit unique, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think Petrarca. So for those people who have him as a pod, they would have been very happy with a 116 or whatever it might have been. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Who was the flog from this game?
The flog from this game is Champion Data. Obviously, they make a great game possible, but, mate, Max Gawn. Have you seen this? He was 0.1% away from getting forward status. You just give that. You just pay the man. Just come on. Like, if you're just 0.1% of the way, it makes it a bit more interesting. You just give it, I reckon. And obviously they haven't done that, and he's missed out, and he's a ruck only. And those who have maybe jumped on early or were crossing their fingers that they'd have another option to trade into this round to cover their bye rounds in the ruck and forward, it's not going to work out as pretty for us. So
I feel for poor Stato, hey.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's scored better than he did the week prior, and I think he will be okay. And we'll talk about again some ruck options with the Sean Darcy news, but just pay that. Come on, 0.1%. Let's give the people what they want.
That's so rough. Now, GWS went down to GMHBA and did a number on the Cats.
Yes.
Despite that, Stewart was my bog. I think he got a 120 down there. I didn't watch the game, but GWS, fantastic effort to
9
do
marks,
that.
He's the only real guy that's just been consistent. I mean, apart from obviously Jeremy Cameron being, arguably the best player in the AFL, but in terms of fantasy, he's the one guy from that team that we can really rely on.
Yeah, a pretty handy pickup almost for everyone, didn't it?
I think a lot of people have.
It was like a 3 or 4 week stretch there where he was the only trade target, but he was the bog from that one.
Flog for me is the fucking sub rule.
Jeez, you're plotting everyone. It's not exclusively players today.
No players, just the rules and people that officiate and make the game possible. But no, the sub rule, it can just get fucked, really. Josh Fay. 6 points. He comes on for the last quarter. I don't even think like the full last quarter. Son. What a debut! Comes in as one touch. Yeah. Like that is not how you want to make your debut. Like seriously.
Imagine. Yeah, I mean, I know he'll absolutely take it. He's now an AFL player.
He's an AFL player.
But imagine you go down to the rooms after and you give mum and dad a big hug and congratulations.
Yeah. You touched the ball once.
You barely got on it. Yeah, it just doesn't sort of leave a great taste in your mouth. But.
Yeah, look, and that sucks. And again, as from a fantasy point of view, Josh Fay, a guy we've been, watching for ages with his huge VFL scores. Guess what his break even is now?
No, don't even tell me.
It's 55. So he comes in and he has a good game. His price is moving nowhere.
They've ruined him for us.
Yeah, his price is 55. Weeks. So there's no reason, even if he is named, that you jump on early. You just wait a week. But
that sucks.
It's the kind of thing that, it's just an AFL fantasy killer.
It went well for GWS too. So probably
and they won.
The sub again.
Yeah, exactly. Bloody miracle sub over here. So
miracle sub.
Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Gold Coast versus the Bulldogs, a tight one up at the.
I'm telling you,
Northern Territory.
The Cud Muncher's a premium.
He is.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Matty Rowell? What is Matty Rowell doing? He's still not marking the ball, but he's
I finally figured out why he does that, and I saw an interview about him. He's getting in touch with his surroundings, and he's becoming one with the ground. And apparently that's what he says. That was the quote that I saw on the weekend.
That video that you're referring to, where they're like asking about that, I don't know how they're asking with a straight face.
I was listening to it too. I was like, there's no way no one is snickering or giggling right now.
So why do you eat the grass? Ah, yes, okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just, I'd be losing it. Are you serious, bro?
Mate, you can touch the grass all you want, but you don't have to put it in your mouth. They asked him about the pesticides. Anyway. But no, he obviously had a big game and is coming through for those who did jump on, like our good friend of the show, Dossie.
Yeah. He's a Dossie pod if ever I've seen one.
Yeah, I'm still waiting. Obviously, there's plenty of time for the Dossie curse to come in, but so far, so good for Matty Rowell. And if you have him,
speaking of the Dossie curse,
yes,
your flog here, or one of your flogs. Anyway.
Well, the Dossie curse here is the Godarini and Rory Atkins combo, the rat passer as it's going around. Double 30s for the boys. I think 33 for your boy Fiorini, and Rory Atkins subbed out. Fiorini just couldn't find the ball at all up there in Northern Territory. Slippery conditions, not ideal for these two players who rely on uncontested marks. So kind of could see a poor game coming, but this was next level poor. And it's not what you want to see on the eve of the buys when you've got two guys in there. Part of the reason why you have them is because they're good buy round. And now it's got a lot of people contemplating trading them out. It's just more questions than we want before the start of the buy rounds, Luke. So They are the flogs for this game.
Correct, Mundo.
West Coast versus Essendon.
My bog, Mike Hunt. Oh, sorry.
Whoa.
Sorry. No, I misread that. Jaden Hunt. Sorry. Jaden Hunt went well.
You're going to say that a bit slower next time.
Yeah. I went that was
very quick.
What a slip of the tongue. Jaden Hunt, 120. A lot of people, I reckon, would have moved off him, myself included. He had a couple of bad ones, but if you did hang on to him, whether that was by plan or forced, you would have been pretty happy with the 120, I reckon, this weekend.
Yeah, 120 resets his break even, back down at 62 now. He's probably going to get close to 700k. And yeah, you're definitely probably holding that one through, milking as much cash as you can. So
yeah, for sure.
Good score there by Hunty. My flog is Xavier O'Neill. And
this is one of the all-time pump fakes.
Yeah, he pump faked the shit out.
You were like the shooting stars meme. You were fucking flying.
I lost it. And
do you want to tell everyone the story of how you fucked my team?
So you were, what night was this? Saturday night?
Yeah.
You were off doing a Kokoda Trail walk in the nights for God knows what reason.
Walking through the bush at night with about 15 school children.
Yeah.
Just sounds...
I don't know. That sounds, like great fun when you can sit at home and watch the footy. But...
no reception.
You've left me in charge of any vice captaincy loops because you obviously had the Brayshaw loop like I did.
Yep.
You were looping... who was it? Weddle as well. But the news comes down. Xavier O'Neill has been a late change, and Twitter is ablaze, and rightfully so. Like the previous 2 weeks, he's tagged Will Day.
Yeah.
He's held him to like 12 touches, I think the stat was.
Yeah.
He held, who was it? Noah Anderson the week before to sub 80 score.
Yeah.
So the writing was on the wall. I still was okay, and people were asking me, should I trade in Zach Merritt? I said, yep. But I just didn't have the confidence on him being my captain. So I started thinking, okay, who's the next guy on my list? And the next guy on my list was bloody Nick Dacos, who I should have gone, who went better than both Merritt and English, who was the guy that actually did go to, who had his second poorest game of the round. So just a domino effect of bad decisions, and obviously not the hugest error in the world, but it did cost me more points than it should have, when I should have just stuck to my guns and gone down the Ball Boys Big Boys, and everything would have been okay.
That's right. It's just another reason I can blame you for my poor fantasy team. So we'll take it.
Okay, well, at least I did the same thing for my team too, so you can't accuse me of...
Get back in the shot, mate. You're sliding out of the shot.
Oh,
What are
you're boxing me out, mate.
doing?
All right, what have we got next up?
Tiggies took on Port Adelaide, and Tim Taranto just needs to get this award in every game that Richmond plays.
Yeah.
Just
Last man on the ton run, so my prediction has come true.
Yeah.
My hot take.
Enough said, I reckon, on that one.
145, 4 goals. He kicked 4 snags, so...
Beast mode.
Yeah, absolute beast mode. And flog for this game, Marlon Pickett. I don't know if you've seen this, but Richmond tagged now. He was getting a run through the midfield.
Tim has gone for 1 week.
Trying to tag, and he's tagged Rosie. He held Rosie to a very poor 28 touches or something like that and 101 fantasy points. But, yeah, Dimmer's, not even...
McWalter in and tagging.
And he's tagging. So now we've got that to worry about. I mean, obviously he didn't do a very good job. He's not a typical tagger. But, I tagged Connor Rosie for 27 touches. But still scored 102 points. But, just clogging up a midfield spot for Richmond was the highest CBA attendee for the team outside of Nate Curtis. So... And obviously didn't score well himself, 50 points on the weekend. So...
That's freaking gross.
Just don't know why we're doing that over at Richmond.
Collingwood, North Melbourne, Nick Dacos, Bog once again. Similar to Taranto. He just
came through and crushed the matchup.
Every game he
didn't have to worry too much about a Bailey Scott's tag. He just played a bit through the midfield as well, which was good to see. So, big one there. Flog here, Jai Simpkin. Just was an option that we've been kind of continually saying he's a good option. He's cheap. Comes out and scores a sub 70, and just I no longer have the confidence to continue saying that he's cheap, because he just continually disappoints me. And
there's a reason he's cheaper.
Yeah, but he's going to come out and average 100 the second half of the year. But I just can't jump on him now because I just don't have the confidence, because the role is continually there. I don't really know why he can't score very well when he has done so in the past on a poor side. It's not all of a sudden. It's not like he's come from a good side and all of a sudden he's in a bad side. He's done it before, so I don't know why he can't score. But I am officially done recommending him as a cheap trade-in target, because I just don't know why he's scoring poorly.
Last game of the round, Adelaide and Brisbane. My rank and your rank as well was probably at risk of really diving here if Laird had a good one and Dawson didn't keep up. So yes. Dawson ended up scoring 135 and helped me to hold my rank in the top 10K. So big game from him, and it was much needed at that point as well. 10
tackles, just beast mode. And do you remember the people that were questioning whether or not going to the midfield was going to be good for his scoring or not?
Yeah, it's proven
I do.
Correct.
Yes, so he is. He's obviously better as a midfielder in terms of his average, and that is showing. The flog for this game, bending the rules a bit, but I'm giving it to Will Ashcroft.
Ashcroft?
Yeah, mate, come on. What's going on? You need to learn how to travel outside of the Gabba, as does the rest of the Brisbane team. They can't seem to get it done away from the Gabba is the story, and until they prove us all wrong, there's going to continue to be the story. But he is now someone that we will definitely need to discuss whether or not he stays on our side moving on from this week. So that will do it for those ones. Let's move on to this next segment here, where we've got a fair bit to get through. Lots of news from the weekend here, Luke. Starting with the new DPPs. We've just got maybe a couple of relevant ones here. Jack McRae has gained forward status.
Yep.
And Matt Kennedy, in a weird twist of events, has gained defender status. Probably less relevant. But Jack McRae, now as a forward, does he tempt you?
He definitely tempts me, but we spoke about this a little bit before we chucked the headsets on, is you just don't know how to pick it at the Bulldogs. So a couple of things. Bailey Smith the last 2 weeks has been performing the way that we were hoping, with high CBAs, his time on ground increased, and he was looking like a guy that he, would be a must kind of own top 6 forward. Then, game on the weekend, I think Smith had like 3 CBAs, McRae's CBAs increased, and McRae pops a 120. Then add to all that Treloar is potentially coming back this week. So it's just, as much as these guys are tempting, the uncertainty about it all just really gives me cause for concern.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, like, I think in years past, I mean, it happens every fucking year. Bevo gives us a forward. Last year we had Bailey Smith and Bont. This year we've got Bailey Smith and Jack McRae. There's always going to be, it seems like, a Bulldog that's going to unexpectedly be a forward halfway through the season because of the Bevo factor. And it's trying to pick those runs and when things happen, that you could get onto the end of gold, or you could be stuffed around based on what Bevo plans to do week to week. But this year in particular, it's probably harder than years past, in my opinion, because we've got a stacked forward line.
Yeah.
Think about Tim Taranto, Dunkley, Cogs, McRae's in there now, Butters, Rosie, Goulden, Bailey Smith, not to mention Sheasel, Zeeble, who are both also forward eligible.
Yeah.
Players like Darcy Cameron and the like also in there as well.
So in years gone by, you could hide behind the fact that, forwards kind of top 6 forwards 95. It's like Isaac Heaney was almost a top 6 forward, or was a top 6 forward.
You look at his score, and he's only had one score below an 80 this whole year.
Yeah.
Lots of 80s, 90s, 100s in there. No huge ceiling score just yet, but as a traditional, averaging 97, that's usually top 6 bank it guy. I still think he's definitely someone to consider, but it's just picking the top 6 forwards, and maybe we should do a rolling 22 or something coming up soon. But it's hard to pick those sort of bottom 2 to 3 guys in the forward line.
What do you think that the 6th best forward average is this year?
I think it is 100 plus. I think you want your forward to be averaging over 100.
Yeah.
All your forwards to be averaging over 100, which is why eventually, if you want to keep a Sheasel and a Zeeble, I think they need to be in your defence when you're looking at the best players possible, because I think we do have a lot of good forwards rolling around this year. But
for sure,
McRae is definitely someone to consider. And obviously, he scored very well on the weekend, I think it was his best score for the season, 123. In fact, yes, it was against the Gold Coast Suns. Comes up against Geelong, Port, and North Melbourne in his next 3. So definitely something to consider.
In terms of Kennedy, do you think that is relevant? I mean, there's some people that will own Kennedy, but
it may be relevant as a short-term play because of the things going on in Carlton, and we might as well touch on this now. Carlton's injuries, there's a lot going on. So
Hollands, Newman, and Hewitt.
Hollands, Newman, Hewitt. Cripps also had an ankle issue as well. I'm pretty sure, is it Chera that was suspended a game as well? Yeah, so they've got a few players out at the moment.
Yeah.
So you could easily see next week Matt Kennedy find himself getting high CBA usage. So it might be a play that you can roll through the buys, but I don't necessarily think that the defender status changes anything.
No,
because he's not a keeper regardless.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Did Hobbsy
unless
get
he
DPP
maintains that high CBA role, because he could probably go mid-90s.
Yeah, especially like you said with the injuries. Did Hobbsy get DPP, or am I making
Hobbsy
that up?
did get forward midfield, so he was a forward before, and now he's a forward mid, which again, it's not super helpful, but does help his flexibility.
Yeah.
Especially over the bye rounds, that is helpful. But in terms of a reason to trade someone in, probably not someone I'd really boost up too much. So continuing with those Carlton injuries, we touched on it before, but do we think the bread comes back in? I would have to think he does.
Yeah, I was going to say yes, but am I being optimistic?
I'd have to think he does.
Because your trades this week, you ended up holding the bread.
I did. I held the bread. I traded out Alan Davey and went a bit lighter on cash going to this week in the hopes that he came back.
Yeah.
Because I was semi-hoping or semi-thinking he'd come back last week. But Newman out, Holland injured. He could probably play either of those roles on the wing or at half-back.
I do think he's a chance. Did he play in the AFL?
I think he did play pretty well. I think 29 touches or so. So
okay.
I do think that he's coming back. There's also another wing in Carlton that is a potential chance for a debut. I don't want to butcher his name, so if I'm just going to bring him up. Oh, it's this is the Jackson Binns.
Binsy?
Yeah, Binns.
The Ibis.
Oscar, mate. Oscar, the grouch over here.
Oh, Oscar. Yeah, okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Jackson Binns, 238 mid forward. I think he's been playing a wing role, so might come in and replace Hollins. Apparently, he's been looking okay, but
yeah, Chibata, 29 touches, 111.
Yeah, and the fact that the Blues just can't seem to. I mean, they're going pretty poorly at the moment, so I do think they need to swing the axe and make some changes. And you know, last time Chincotta was in there, he did play pretty well, in my opinion. So I do think he's a chance.
Should we talk some suspensions?
Yeah, who have we got?
Well, one we mentioned off the top was Sicily. So he's popped that 160, but he's going to be suspended now for a week. So
They've accepted the 1 week ban.
He's got the round 14 bye, am I right? So that means that he's going to go suspension.
He's going to be suspended this week.
And then bye.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I can't wipe the smile out of my face because it's just hot off the press.
What's happened?
That Rory Laird has been offered a 1-match suspension.
You are a sick puppy. You are a sick puppy, my friend. Can't wipe the smile off his face. Me neither, but...
So, couple of big names.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people were trading him in. I do think he was a good trade-in target last week, and it showed with his 130-plus score.
I've been pretty kissed recently, I'll be honest.
We've dodged a few bullets.
I copped a few at the start of the year, but I'll put my hand up and say that I've been smooching lately.
The last 2 weeks, I mean, we both copped Mills, so maybe that was enough bad luck for us.
Okay, the Mills 3 sucked.
Yeah. But since then, in terms of like the Sean Darcy, the Atkins bullets,
and all that.
And a few other those bullets, it looks like we've been kissed. But so what are we doing with these guys? They're both round 14.
Yeah.
Let's put them kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
Are they a trade? Like they've both come off 130, 160 plus scores. But if I'm going to give you a scenario, right?
Okay.
We're going into round 12.
Yep.
A lot of people say they have, I don't know, a Rory Atkins, a Fiorini, a Sean Darcy. I think they go before these boys.
Well, that's if Fiorini and Ratkins are dropped. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're assuming that.
I think Ratkins is going to be dropped. Is my assumption because
they won.
They won, but I just don't think he's helping that team. And Brendan Ellis is in the twos right now, and surely he gets a game over a Rory Atkins.
Yeah, you'd have to. I mean, he's played one shit game. I know he got subbed. You didn't watch that one either, did you?
No, I missed that one. I was watching the other game. Oh, I watched the end of it, but yeah, he obviously would have been subbed by then.
It wouldn't surprise me either way. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're coaching the Suns, you go, okay, well the bloke's been good for us for 4 weeks and he's had one bad game. We'll give him another run. But you know, it wouldn't surprise me the other way as well if they bring in Ellis. So okay, so back to hypotheticals. But anyway,
yes.
Let's say
so the hypothetical situation, you got two, or maybe if people are both. I mean, I don't know what people are doing. But this could really wreck some teams around the place. But they're missing this game. Come round 13. Now, this is the timing of this is what I find the most interesting because round 13 is the bye round that we have all our team basically playing.
Yeah.
So even if they're there, how much are they actually helping you that round? Because if I just look at my own team, I'm going to have 22 players playing, and I'm getting best 18. I pretty much have 18 premiums playing that round.
So you basically see those guys now that they've been suspended as basically irrelevant for 3 weeks because
they're not irrelevant because they're probably going to be one of your better scorers in round 13. So they might boost you over, but it's like the difference between them. Say you've got a sick dog on your field over, I don't know, a Sheasel, or you've got a Laird on your field over a Hobbs or a Humphrey. Like it's not like you're getting an extra 130 points. You're getting maybe an extra 30 or 40 points, if that makes sense.
Let's say you trade them both. You can't get both back in probably coming off their bye.
Yeah, you're probably not getting them in till after the bye rounds.
Yeah, so
I actually think it's a trade.
Well, in the scenario where let's say Atkins and Fiorini get dropped,
I think they're priority.
You get rid of them first. So you're saying it's a trade?
I think if you don't have the carnage to deal with injuries or drop players that are worth less and you're not going to want on your team anyway, I think say you've dodged some of those bullets, then I think it is a trade because they're missing 2 games in the next 3 rounds, and the round 13 bye, you're going to have so many other players playing anyway that they're not actually going to help you all that much outside of a potential captain option in a Rory Laird and the difference between them and a mid-pricer that you might have running through there, which is maybe, 20, 30 points, 30, 40 points. So you're holding for 30, 40 points over the next 3 rounds. I don't know if that's enough to justify it for me. I would rather, if I don't have other carnage, I'd be aggressive in trying to trade those boys.
Does all that go with the caveat of dependent on your team structure?
Depending on the team,
yeah.
obviously.
I guess a lot of stuff we say on this podcast will
throughout the whole buys.
Yeah.
Everyone's buy structure is going to be completely unique, but I'm highlighting the fact that because of that round 13 buy, I think this is a more unique situation than you would typically just think of off the top of your head.
Yeah. Next piece of news on the agenda, Shawnee Darce's hamstring. That's sort of hamstring for a big fella is at least 2 or 3 weeks.
I think they've come out and said that it's a moderate hamstring. He's confirmed to be missing 1 game after his bye, at least.
So you're trading.
I think you're trading.
You just got to trade him.
You trade and you try and get up to either the English or you look at maybe there are a few other interesting ruck options around that we will highlight later. But I do believe that it is a trade. He was always going to miss this week. A lot of people probably had planned on trading him at this bye round anyway to get to a Tim English.
Yeah.
Because obviously Tim English has been hurting you most of the season. It just sucks that he's dropped 50k the week before and I've given that poor score. So unlucky there, but I think he is, again, another trade. A lot of teams might need the 3 trades this week.
Oh, man.
Another little injury, just to keep an eye on. Seamus Mitchell apparently had a little injury at the end of the game there. I don't know exactly how serious it is or what exactly it was, but just another one to monitor there that if you're expecting a green dot, just watch the injury reports over at Hawthorn as well. We mentioned before that Adam Treloar has apparently been reported to return for the Dogs. So how does that impact Bailey Smith, Jack McRae? Probably those are the main 2.
Yeah.
Maybe you wait to pull the trigger, but I don't know.
Close your eyes and throw a dart. It's just like, how do you know?
How do you know? And then the last little note here is Clayton Oliver has been reported to be training with the main group today. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's back this week. This man wants a Brownlow. They lost as well.
He's a tough prick too. They like last year, didn't he break his hand and then he played the next week?
Yeah, had surgery, played a week after.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. Imagine any other profession, like outside of sport people, where that is something to be considered, where a guy has surgery and then is out doing what they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine accountant get a paper cut and have 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't put accountant. Sorry,
to all the accountants.
Yeah,
out there.
I don't have anything against.
You're doing God's work out there.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. It'd be teachers. Those bloody teachers.
Yeah, those teachers have enough holidays as it is.
I got those soft whiteboard hands for writing on the
whiteboard. Bring back the blackboard. Bring back the chalk.
It's 2023, mate.
All right.
Can't say blackboard.
Oh, okay. Settle down. Settle down, mate. And the last little news that we will talk about a bit more in depth is the fact that it is now the buy rounds. And just a little for the
the buy rounds?
Did you not know? That's why you got that 3rd trade.
Oh, yeah. No one's been talking about it,
But yeah, buy rounds start now, and we'll go through in case you have been living under a rock, and if maybe you haven't done too much of the buy rounds before in fantasy. We're looking for the best 18 scores on your ground. I did type 8 there. No, you get more than 8. You get 18 scores. Now, they have to be on your ground to count.
Okay.
So, say you've got 7 defenders, that you only get 6 counted there. And also that the other smaller, maybe more thing that we should also point out is that buy round players are locked out on the last game of the round.
Loop-de-doop.
Which makes looping our captains the easiest thing in the world.
Lupe fiasco. Let's go.
So that means that in terms of our vice captains, and make sure you don't fall into the trap of just looking at that first game or 2 for your vice captains. You can go anyone across the entire weekend. And on the last day, we've got that Richmond versus Giants matchup. You could loop Tim Taranto if you wanted to and go into a Zach Merritt C, basically. So
the Ball Boys, Big Boys get a preview.
It's just easy. It's like easy this week. So that is something to keep in mind as well. So don't be lured into that Friday night VC when you don't have to. There might be better options. But yeah, what do you, again, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah.
Do you have a plan going into the buy rounds in terms of what you're looking to do through each round?
Absolutely not. I have
it's
absolutely
a good start.
No idea. No.
So you told me you struggled a bit last year with the buy. First year playing.
So
what are your learnings?
The story of the buy rounds for me was basically going in with essentially close to a team of premiums and doing all right to then going okay through the bye rounds, but ending the bye rounds without a team of premium. So I think this was
you didn't improve the team. You were sidewaysing.
Exactly.
Would you say?
And this is something that I heard Selby talking about a little bit on one of his podcasts. Was that you not only need to do well throughout the buys, but you can't do that at the expense of having a team full of premiums at the end. So if you're sideways trading premiums during the bye rounds to get those good bye round scores, good on you, but you're going to be fucked at the end.
Yeah.
So you need to find that balance between performing well in the buys, but then also knowing that at the end of the buys, your team's going to come out better than it was before. And that was the mistake that I made my first year last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll credit the great man. He's famous for saying that over the buys, you want to do 3 things. You want to be on each round getting more than your 18.
Yep.
So the other thing, when we talked about it before, you get your best 18 scores. So the beauty of the buys and the best thing is that if you play 20, your worst 2 scores will get dropped off. So say you have an injury or you've got, just a Fiorini sucking, their scores won't count. So you only get your best 18. So if you can use that to your advantage and get 19, 20, 21 players on a round, you're going to be in a great position. You also want to make sure that you are completing your team and finishing the bye rounds with a better team than what you started. So like you said, not sidewaysing. So we get 3 trades. It's the easiest time to upgrade because you can do 2 down, 1 up, fix some of the red dots along the way as well. And you also basically want to view the bye rounds as one giant round.
Yeah.
Because some teams are going to have more premiums playing this weekend than I will.
Yep.
I'll have more premiums playing on another round than they will. So it's not necessarily a fair comparison each week, but over the total bye rounds, you'll sort of see where you stack up.
But if I do well on one of the bye rounds and my rank goes up, I'm taking a screenshot.
Screenshot and let us know about it.
No, don't bloody make
Goes
two
without
ways
saying.
about it. I will take your screenshot if my rank score on
No,
it.
let us know about it, mate. Absolutely. So, we'll be phrasing a lot of what we're talking about over these next few weeks around the buys, but it is difficult with everyone's situation being a bit different. But let's get into this next segment here. I hope I've clicked the right button.
Oh, fuck. I didn't do the transition.
All right.
I didn't do the fun transition. I fucked that up. Sorry.
Oh, okay. We'll get that back up there for our YouTube audience. But I've got some very fun and maybe different names to talk about on the chopping block today. Some big names actually, but we'll get to them in a second. We'll start off by the very obvious red dots. You've got to get rid of them. Some people say during the buys it's easy to carry red dots because it's best 18. I almost think the opposite. It's like the hardest and the worst time to carry red dots because, like we said, if you want to get
play for you,
you want to get more than 18. You want to be trying to get to 20, 21 so that you can get those poor rookie scores or any injuries that you might pick up throughout the round off your ground and not worry about it. So I actually think that red dots during the buys, even if they're 1 week, for the most part, I think they're a trade. Unless, there are some situations potentially that, if you've got so many red dots, you've got to prioritize. But if you can, I would be trading the red dots to get your most amount of players playing. The next player that we're going to talk about on the chopping block, and I'll get your thoughts on this, Will Ashcroft. What are we doing with Will Ashcroft? Is he a guy that we're trading? He's obviously been great throughout the season.
Yeah, I think if you're going to trade him, of course, this week's the opportunity to do so. Like, if you don't trade him this week, you're going to keep him through the buys. He's going to be a breathing body for you. As it stands, I've moved him on.
Okay.
I've actually gone him down to Hobbs. That's that's all I've done so far, and that pockets me a bit of coin. And I just, even though Ashcroft could come out and pump out a few, triple-figure scores, his break-even's now up in the mid-90s, I think it is. So, and so I just see this as a good time to potentially get him down to Hobbs, pocket some cash, and have guys that are kind of on an opposite trajectory potentially as well. It could prove to be the wrong move, but that's just where I sort of stand at the minute.
I agree. He's in my trade plans right now. I think I'm going to be trading him out just to, first of all, he's very highly owned. So you trade him out, and he's someone that could rocket you up the rankings if he does come out and score poorly. I actually want to have a look. So in the top 1,000, he's 87% owned. So you saw on the weekend, he's a rookie still at the end of the day. He's prone to volatile scoring. He had 120 plus the weekend before, and comes out and scores a 46. So I actually almost wish that he didn't come out and score that 46 because I think a lot more people would be holding if he had scored well. Because a lot of times we can get, we fall in love with these rookies and it's hard to let go of them when they've been performing so well. And even last year, a lot of people talk about, Nick Dacos being the guy that people traded and then he put a few decent scores on your head. But at the end of the day, if you look at the end of his year, he didn't actually perform that well. He did come out and have a 147 in round 18, but that's at round 18. Before that, he's dropped like a 66. He has gone 117 and an 88. And after that 147, he's only put up one more ton for the rest of the season. So whilst they're good numbers, they're not top of his line numbers.
They're good for a rookie, and that's what people were sort of comparing to. Let me ask you a question here. So aside from the fact that if you don't trade Ashcroft, he provides you the warm body through the rest of the buys, how much more cash do you think he can make?
I think he's pretty close to topping out. What is he actually at now?
He's at 726. So I don't see him getting much more than 800k
he might
potentially.
Crawl his way to 750, I would say.
So I think this is prime time. It's like you get the buy benefit of trading in another guy, and you're probably not losing out on a heap more cash generation.
And say he does go another poor score, like a 50 or a 60, he's going to start going down the wrong way. So I am in the camp that I think if you can, and you've got the luxury to, and you don't have too many bullets, then you trade him. If you do have a lot of bullets, however, he's not the worst guy in the world to hold, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, his job security is pretty good. He's played every game of the year so far. The buy round hopefully freshens him up a little bit as a younger body and gives him a new little run at it.
It's probably a fair point, is it? Because there'll be a few people that are obviously copying bullets this week with the two Gold Coast boys. You got Darcy, so I
wouldn't stress and bend heaven and earth to get to move him out if you have those bullets. But I do think that he is someone that, if you can, I would probably recommend trading him out and getting him. You're going down. I mean, we'll yet to sort of see what you're doing. I like the idea of, it doesn't really matter, use the cash however you want to, but I like to try and get him to a big dog. So I want to try and get him to a captain option so that upgrade feels like I'm getting a better player on my field. Because, like you said, he's been a good player for us, so I want it to feel like a proper upgrade.
If I can get him down to Hobbs, that gives me 180k in the bank, and then if there's a potential rookie that comes through that I could go down, if Fiorini's dropped, I could take him to a big dog. So there's kind of So I like this free trade business.
3 trades makes it very, very nice. So speaking of Braden Fiorini, is he someone that we trade even if he is named? So say he is named. I think if he's dropped, you trade him. But say he is there come this round. Is he someone that you can look to trade anyway?
The part of the appeal of he and Atkins to an extent was getting you through the buys and the fact that they had that good buy. If he's named, I feel like dropping him or getting rid of him would kind of betray that whole way of thinking. It would maybe it's necessary, but it would feel dirty because a lot of people bought him in for this very reason. Yeah,
but let me phrase it in a different way. Who averages more between now and the end of the buys? Will Ashcroft or Braden Fiorini?
That's true.
Probably Ashcroft, right? So if you're going to trade one of them, are you trading Fiorini? And his break-even's higher at 104?
Yeah, see, this is such the mental side of the game.
He's playing this week, which I think is maybe the difference.
It's appealing.
So maybe you just hold him 1 week, trade him next week, which I can understand that as well. But it might be that he might just lose money this week. You know what I mean? So you're just trading him at a cheaper price. And will his score even count towards your best 18? I guess, again, it's going to be very team dependent, how many players you have playing this week.
Yeah.
But if you've already got sort of 19, 20, I think you can definitely trade him.
I could do a straight swap for you.
If you need the numbers this week and you're struggling to get to 18 or 19, then you probably do have to hold. But if he is there, I would almost argue that I'd probably trade him ahead of an Ashcroft, just because the role's not as good, and probably the job security isn't as good either. So in that situation, I think you can trade him.
What's your opinion on Atkins then? Same or?
I expect him to be dropped. In all honesty, and I think it's probably pretty similar to Fiorini.
Yep.
I think they're probably going out before an Ashcroft, just because yeah, their cash is going to start going the wrong way.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you meant job security wise.
Yeah, and job security wise. And again, I mean, his breaking even is 78, so it's not quite as high as those other boys, but again, he hasn't quite as made as much cash.
Now you got a couple of spicy names here on the list, potentially to be chopped. Talk to us about these ones.
So on the chopping block, I'm going to float it out there because in my early plans, this is something that I'm considering doing.
This is bold.
And this is where I wouldn't be doing this if we had a bunch of rookies that I could easily trade to. But at the moment, I don't have much confidence, and any rookie that we're trading in now will have their buy soon. So this is an awkward round in terms of trading rookies.
Yeah.
But Errol Goulden as a trade out target. This man is obviously killing it so far this season, but he's priced at $972,000. He's made $237,000 on the season. At a priced at figure, he is priced at 114 points. If you had told me that he was going to average 114 points at the start of the season, I might not have laughed in your face, but I would have been like, there's no way.
You would lead the Errol Goulden fan club.
I know. And if you had told me that, I would have said, well, he's in there 75% of the time. And he's not. He's only in there 10, 15% CBAs.
What happens if he goes in there 75% of the time?
Well, and I think there's actually another suspension over at Sydney as well. But he is someone that I think is doing overs what I expect him to do moving forward.
So if you were to trade him this week, are you trading him with the intention that you think maybe you could pick him up later for cheaper? Is that
potentially?
Okay.
But I'm also not super stressed if I can't, because I feel like I'm trading him out at his top value. And like I said at the start of the show, there's a bunch of forwards there that could average in a similar ballpark. You trade him to a Jack McRae and you make nearly 150k.
Yeah, and so you buy low, sell high.
Buy low, sell high.
And then you use that money to...
Like, if I told you Jack McRae from now to the end of the season averages more than Errol Goulden, like that's not a ridiculous statement.
Not out of the realms of possibility.
In fact, I would actually argue that I would hedge my bets that Jack McRae does average more than Goulden from here to the end of the season.
So let me try and clarify something for the people listening. So you're endorsing this kind of thing as an option to trade down to make money on what you deem as underperforming. So you're not going trade Errol Goulden to Clayton Oliver or trade Errol Goulden. No. Yeah, no, I'm just clarifying for people because people might go like, what does that mean? Am I just getting Errol to whoever? But you just to be clear for everyone, it's in a cash grab to a player that you think might actually be a similar performing player.
Yeah, correct. So say for example, like I'm trading one of my trade scenarios, and we'll sort of wait to sort of hear some things out. But if I trade Errol Goulden to a Jack McRae, I can make enough money to trade a Will Ashcroft to a Noah Anderson. And I've done that. I've fixed a couple of my buy rounds. I've got 2 players playing this round as well. And I still actually have a little bit of money left over to then trade a James Warple to another premium as well. So, and I've bypassed any of the shaky job security of any rookies out there as well. And I just feel confident that Errol he's overdone what I expect him to do. He's had 2 absolutely out-of-the-box scores back-to-back, which has shot his price incredibly high. He's averaging 106 on this season and priced at 114. So even on what he's doing so far this season, he's overpriced.
Still overpriced.
And I expect that. I don't know if he's going to have another 2 150-plus scores for the rest of the season. The only thing that gives me a little bit of hesitancy is his run coming up. So after his bye, goes up against St Kilda, the Lions of the Gabba, West Coast, Geelong, and then Richmond. So he's got 3 very easy matchup in his next 5. So that does give me a little bit of a pause. But at the same time, he just went up against North Melbourne. I know he was tagged to a degree, but only averaged the 106, 101 in his last game. So there is a risk element to it because, again, he's extremely highly owned. I think he's 97% owned in the top 1,000. But that's the other appealing part to it. You know, touch wood, fingers crossed for everyone else out there. But say he does go down with an injury and I'm the one of 30 coaches in the top 1,000 that doesn't have him. That's a big jump for me. So it's a risky play, but it's one I think that everyone should at least consider.
And in that same move that you were talking about. Your team's not going sideways because you're adding the premium to go from Ashcroft to Anderson. So you're still ticking that box of having a team at the end that is better than your team at the start of the buys. Okay, now another name that you've thrown in there, I'm interested to hear you talk about this one as well, is Timmy English.
Tim English. Tim English is someone I'm less keen about this one, but again, using the price on his head, 993,000. So again, price at around that 115 mark. Now, there is a world where I see him doing more than that for the rest of the season. So I like it a little bit less, but again, the reason I also like for this one in particular is because of that round 15 buy, which we're all quite heavy in. You've got players like Darcy Cameron, who you could trade down to, who present a bit of value. Max Gawn presents a bit of value there as well, which have a more favourable buy round. And again, it's the same logic of using that cash to then get him up to get someone else up to a premium. So you go a Tim English all the way down to a Darcy Cameron, you're making over $300,000. So that's, again, you can get, your Fiorini basically up to your Uber premium and do that in one move. And again, Darcy Cameron to Tim English, yes, it's a downgrade in a way, but it's probably more of an upgrade on the other end. Yeah. Plus you're fixing a bit of a buy around structure. And Tim English, again, he's got a break even of 141. So the other bonus with him is he's coming down. So he might be more obtainable after his buy rounds. I like it less because he is a guy that 141 break even, he could reach that. Yeah. And I do actually expect him to be 115 plus moving forward. So I don't necessarily think he's overs, but it's just that kind of creative trading that I think we need at this time of year when there are no cash cows around that we can confidently trade into.
Mate, I don't mind it. I thought you summarised it pretty well too. So I'll be interested to see how that's received and whether people think that might be.
Call me crazy, but we've got to start exploring some of these things, I think, as well. There's some other players that I could also argue you could do a similar thing with in Tom Green. There's another round 15 buy round player. He's nearly priced at that $1 million. I personally think he's outperformed, but maybe that's just me as a non-owner. You've got some other players, even like a Sam Walsh, who is priced very highly there as well, and a few other players in there. But if you think that a player has overperformed what they've done to date and are priced accordingly, then if you can get them down, you might be able to get a nice upgrade on the back end of it.
Absolutely. Now, should we talk some potential trade targets?
Let's do it.
The other end of those trades.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Now, defenders, we've got a couple of trade targets here. Now, Sam Doherty we talked about the fact that bringing him into your team now is even a little bit poddy, which
absolutely.
is very handy when you talk about a guy like Sam Doherty.
4% owned in the top 1,000. So
you're talking about a guy like Doherty as a 4% owned and a guy who we know can go bang 115 averaging. Is he a guy that you're targeting this week, or is he a guy that you're targeting a little bit later?
The tough thing is, obviously, he's got that round 15 buy, and I imagine a lot of people are going to struggle on that buy round. But in saying that, our defenders, you think about the players that we have to have by the end of this season. He's got to be Dawson,
list, doesn't he?
It's Dacos, it's Doherty. I think they're the clear top three guys in their line.
Young.
And Hayden Young, of course. How could I leave my man off? You could argue that like your Sicily, your Stewarts, your Sheasels, your Zeebles, those kind of guys, Will Days, are in that next bracket, that next tier. But I think that there's a clear distinction between those 3Ds at the top there as sort of the 105, potentially 110 averaging defenders. So if you can get him before everyone else, I think it could be a good move. The tough thing is he's expensive and he's also on the round 15 buy. But you've got two trades to downgrade to get the money up. This was the time of year I got him in last year, and he was a very good target at that point.
Now, talk to me about Bailey Dale, because I know he was a target for a lot of people last week. He maybe went a little bit unders on what we were hoping for this week with an 81, but are you just putting that down to some juicy conditions?
Yeah, obviously playing up north, in the NT and dewy conditions. So I think, look, he only had 2 marks. I expect him to do more than that. He had 9 and 7 the 2 weeks before that. So I sort of see him in the last year he averaged 90. I don't see why he can't do that now while JJ is on the sidelines. And from what I heard, it's a somewhat severe hamstring. And I just think he's a really good player as well. And he's the kind of guy that's cheap enough that you can get him through to the buys. You're not necessarily married to keeping him at round 15. You can trade him off at that point if you have to. But I still think he's a decent value play at this point.
Like I said, round 15 buy, but his next 3 games are at Marvel.
Absolutely. So no dewy conditions there under the roof.
Certainly not.
Next 5 games are at Marvel.
Even after his bye.
Yeah.
That's very handy.
Yeah, lots of Marvel games coming for the Dogs. And then the last couple of trade targets here for the Bombers. Feels dirty saying this, but Andy McGrath and Jordan Ridley.
Is there a change in game style there, or is it just... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know they went big against the Tigs.
Well, look,
weeks ago.
We've been talking about the midfield matchups for the Bombers.
Yeah, true.
The defenders, they're getting it too, obviously. I think even Mason Redmond's another guy that you could possibly throw in there. He's a little bit more expensive, but they've just got some great matchups coming up. North Melbourne again, under the roof at Marvel this weekend. Carlton, who some teams are scoring well against in defenders. Yeah. Again, run up to his bye. The break-evens are low, so you're going to make a bit of cash. Ridley's got a break-even of 58 up against North Melbourne. 636K, so very cheap. You could, again, potentially make a bit of money as one of those guys. You go from someone expensive to him. Yeah. They might average very similar over the next couple of weeks. You flick them off at your buy. And, it's a short-term play, I think, with those kind of guys. You're not kind of getting them in for the rest of the season. And those are the kind of moves that you can make this week when their downgrade targets are a little bit harder to come by.
Now, talking mids, you've got Lairdy at the top of this list, but I'm assuming based on the news that we just heard,
let's put a little asterisk next to that one.
A little asterisk. So talk to me about Noah Anderson instead then. Obviously, he's got the good buy, but does the fact that in his last 3 games he's, pretty much averaged mid-80s give you any sort of concern?
It's so funny because, previous to this, I think before, when Tuke Miller went down, we were like, yep, get him in. He's going to be great. Yeah. I think the next game he came up against Richmond, went 134, went 132. People saw those 2 scores and went, okay, I've got to get Noah Anderson in. And his price obviously shot up at that point, and we trade him in, and he's gone 390 or below scores since then. This is the thing that is, we know it and we say it all the time, but it can be hard to do. Buy low, sell high.
Yeah.
And so coming off 3 poor scores, a lot of people go, can't touch that. Can't do it. His break-even's 142.
You look like a freaking genius if you do that.
But this is the time we should be looking at him. He's now priced more at what I expect him to do. He is priced at, what's his price? He's under 900K, I'm pretty sure.
What if he keeps doing shit?
He's priced at 104, 105. I expect him to be closer to that 106, 108 mark. So slightly unders, and like you said, that round 13 buy. It's the best kind of person to be trading in at this week because we're going to be fine next week and he's going to help you out. So
next year, I reckon we explicitly request that we get stacked teams for that round.
Yeah, none of this Geelong rubbish.
Just give us who would be good? Who would you take?
Giants,
Bulldogs,
Bulldogs. Yeah, those
orange
boys.
And blue. Yeah, let's
give us those boys.
Geez, that'd be handy.
But yeah, look, he probably will go down a bit more in cash, but I mean, you got to get him in now for the buy to really mean anything.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Oh, of course.
So I still think he's a decent target, and I don't think he's overpriced anymore for what he can do. And he's got Adelaide, and then afterwards he's got Carlton and Hawthorn. So 3, I would say, middle of the road matchups. Hawthorn maybe being a bit more positive, and his CBAs have been through the roof the last few weeks as well. So the role was still there. He just, for whatever reason, hasn't been getting the scores.
Now Petrarca's the next guy you've got on the list, and I don't mind it as an option. He's down 20K on his starting price from the year, but he's got a floor of 80, and then we know that this guy's got a ceiling of 140, 150. Round 14 buy.
I think that's an underrated. I don't know how many teams are out there that are stacked on round 14 buy players.
Well,
so I think
we got you got Essendon, you've got Melbourne, you've got Adelaide. So I think teams are moving more towards that with bringing in guys like Merritt, Hobbs. Obviously Dawson's a guy that a lot of people have now. But yeah, I think that there's something to be said maybe as Petrarca as that upgrade target this week.
Yeah, I mean,
how much value do you think he presents?
I don't think he presents a whole lot of value. So he's priced at 104. I think he could probably go 106 to 108. So maybe a similar kind of thing to a Noah Anderson. Yeah. I kind of actually view them quite similarly, but obviously you've got the round 13 buy for Anderson. But the only difference is Petrarca's break even is 119. So you feel a little bit better that he's at least not going to lose more cash and you could have got him cheaper or whatever. But I kind of view them both in a similar range of projections. pick your poison, basically. And if a round 14 buy suits you just as good, then you could go for a player like that. And maybe if Oliver misses another one or two, he might get a little bit of a bump because of that.
These next three guys, I'm gonna guess that you've added them to the list as guys that fit into that category of guys that they're not going to be in your team long term, but are they the guy that can be serviceable for you throughout the buys and then you can move on? So we're looking at De Goey, Tom Mitchell, and Hugh Greenwood. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I like De Goey and Tom Mitchell a little bit better. De Goey especially is a guy that I think you could do something pretty sneaky with. And again, at this stage, he is in my trade plans. But priced $749K, break even of 60, coming off the back of his biggest score of the year, 127 against the Kangaroos. And guess who he has this week? He has the Weagles at Optus Stadium. So
last three games, he's going at like 105, 110.
Yeah, so he's got some ceiling games, and this is where you can take some punts on these guys because if he pumps out a ceiling score, amazing, great. If he puts out a turd, then hopefully if you've got 20 players playing, you might not even count towards your best 18. So break even of 60 means that he's probably moving up in price. And if worst case it goes horrible, you trade him back out at round 14. Yep. So I'm looking at potentially doing a little sneaky play of someone like a Warple straight across to him, costs me like 20K.
Okay.
And has a better matchup, has a high ceiling in my opinion. Same with Tom Mitchell. Now, the difference between Tom Mitchell and De Goey is Tom Mitchell's break even is not quite as low and his price is a little bit higher at 818K. What do we think about Tom Mitchell? He's had 2 sub 80 scores on the season, but the rest are all decent.
Yeah, I think that's
coming off a 112 against North.
I think it's exactly what it looks like. He's an absolute fantasy pig playing in a system that doesn't reward fantasy pigs. So if he was just an average shit player playing in that system, he'd average 60 or 70 like a heap of players in that system do.
Yeah.
But because he's just finds the pill so well, he's still going to average, just below 100.
Yep.
But he's just not going to go and get those 150s.
Yeah. He's playing a very similar role in terms of CBAs as what he did last year at Hawthorn. He's averaging 95. He averaged 96 last year. So I kind of think
the system just doesn't reward the cheap marks and the short 45s. Like Collingwood just go and go and go. And so he doesn't care. He's playing in a great team, winning games of footy, but it just doesn't work for us.
Could he get some cheap marks against the Eagles this week?
Oh, well, he won't, like you said, he went 112 against North, so there's every chance he goes 110,
120.
Like, if he comes and pops out of 130, 140 at some stage in the season, no one's going to be like, wow, where did that come from? It's Tom Mitchell, but I don't think he's going to average anything that's much more than 100, to be honest.
Yep. And the last guy on that list there was Hugh Greenwood, and look, he's just a very cheap option. His break-even is 14, and since coming back into the sides, he had a multiple list of sub games earlier in the year, 3 sub games in a row from round 3 to round 5. But since coming back into the side under a different coach, he's gone 75, 87, and 114 in his last 3. Price at 537K with a break-even of 14. That's just really cheap, and he's, again, another option that you could make a bunch of money on. Look, it's Hugh Greenwood, so it doesn't make me feel very good. But look, crazier things have worked. So if you play that break-even game within these buy rounds, again, best 18, you can take a bit of these punts moving forward, and you can make money going from a Warple down to him to get perhaps like an Ashcroft up to a big dog. And I think that Warple and Hugh Greenwood potentially average the same, and you get an upgrade on the other side of it, plus you make money on the back of his 14 break-even.
Now, a guy that you don't have on the list, but a guy that I want to ask you about really quickly is...
Hey, just notice we're going really long on this podcast, so apologies, guys. We're strap in, but it's the buy rounds. We've got to dig deep.
Yeah, we do. And I want to ask you about another player, because I want to talk about Ben Keys real quick. So,
oh, yes.
I heard a quote come out today that they wanted to get a little bit of size back in the midfield last week in terms of taking on that big body Brisbane midfield. Mm-hmm. He's turned up. I think it was for the first time this year.
Correct.
But does priced, so he's 564. Is he that guy that fits the bill of, if you pick him now, he gets you through the buy rounds, he's so cheap, and he's a guy that could, if he's in that role, he could give you 120s.
Potentially.
He's cheap.
Matchups, Gold Coast versus West Coast in the next 2. Rory Laird's missing or potentially missing this week as well.
So the little flag is that the quote came out saying that it was like a get a bigger body in there against the Brisbane midfield.
Yeah, if it was matchup specific, and I think he was doing a bit of a job on Neil as well.
But part of that quote also was sharing the load throughout the season. So, he could give you some stinkers, but I mean, if you pick it right and you got him for what, 2-3 weeks and you make money. So
I think I don't mind it. I like the run. I think Rory Laird being out definitely bolsters that being a play.
Yeah.
I'm less confident on it because I've seen him have high CBAs before and the next week drop off.
Yeah.
So my confidence in him maintaining that role throughout these next few weeks is lower than like a Greenwood, who I've seen at least 3 weeks of data of him maintaining a decent role.
He can give you a stinker too. There's 35, 44, 52 in there as well. So,
but again, it's a risk at this time of year that could potentially pay off.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's definitely someone that warrants consideration. And these sound all like very loose picks, but these are plays, especially with this week where the trades do feel very awkward.
Yeah.
Especially trying to make money.
In a standard situation where it wasn't the buy rounds, you wouldn't even
you probably wouldn't entertain
these, would you?
Yeah, no. But I think these are the kind of weeks you can do them.
Yeah. Couple of ruck options have you got here?
Yeah, so we talked about Tim English earlier as a trade out target, but especially for those guys who are a Sean Darcy owner, like what do you think that they should be doing? Do you think they should be coming straight up to Tim English? Should we be looking at more value options? It's tough because as a Darcy owner, you've probably been eyeing off English the whole season.
Yes. And, see, the problem with this is if you go to English, he's burnt you all year. Then you go to him and you miss his buy round, just like everyone else who already owns him misses his buy round. So
plus his break even's 140 plus.
I'd almost be tempted if I was Darcy to go to the other Darcy and Darcy Cameron. But the thing with him is that he's not coming off excellent scores. No. How do we see his role? Do we see?
I like it.
Do you know what I mean? Do we see those scores coming, or do we think it's different to last year?
I do think they're coming now. It's you do want to see it first. But sometimes you gotta jump in.
I mean, by your own logic, with Noah Anderson, he's down and you get on.
Exactly.
So it's like,
and the matchups there is coming up against the Eagles this week.
Yeah.
Like I said, for those Collingwood boys, he's in that role. I think he got 70% of CBAs on the weekend. He just didn't get the points. 79, so it's not a horrible score, but it's obviously doesn't fill you with confidence. But I do think that he is an option. What's his price at? 666,
so
and Sean Darcy is
120K.
790.
Is that
yeah? So 120K or so. Look, it's not as much as I thought it would have been. Obviously, he's lost 52K in this last week, so it does make it tough. But then again, you're paying 200K to get Sean Darcy to Tim English. It's a lot of coin.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of coin. That's the only upgrade you're getting this week.
Yeah,
really.
And then you've got to suck it up when everyone else, when you join everyone else on Tim English's buy round.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
If it was a regular week and the buy round at round 15 wasn't so heavy, I'd just be saying do it.
Just
get Tim English. He's probably the number one. I project him to be the number one averaging player from here to the end of the season. I think he's a permanent captain option for every team, regardless of matchup. But the round 15 buy is the thing that pushes me back. If your round 15 buy is a little bit lighter than what I project most people to be, then I would probably still just go that way. But if you're heavy like a lot of us, at least explore some of these other options. So,
would you go to Gawn instead? So if you go to Gawn, you only make sort of 50K, maybe even less. Would you go there instead of Cameron?
I think I prefer Gawn over Cameron in terms of my confidence in their scoring ability. We've seen Max Gawn put up some decent scores this year in the role that he's in. He's got the same buy round as a Darcy Cameron. So I guess that my tiebreaker would be there. What can you do with the extra bit of cash? So I like them both as good value options. I guess just, what can you do with that extra bit of cash? Because I think they're both probably maybe 7 to 10 points unders of what I expect them to do.
Yep.
But can you do a bit extra with that money saving from going Gawn to Darcy Cameron?
And if you want to make some serious cash, could Briggsy be the Prusy?
Briggs, bring in the big man.
Could he be the Prusy?
So, I don't know if you've looked at this one, but he's gone 84 and 111 in his last two games since coming.
I'm getting on Briggsy.
You go on Briggsy, price at 540K, break even of 17. Could he be your ticket? Coming up against Richmond, North Melbourne, and Freo. Now,
this seems like a loose play.
It does seem like a loose play. You listen to those teams and you think, oh, great matchups, but they're actually not for rucks.
Nank the Tank, man.
Nank the Tank is a big-bodied ruckman. He's on the ton run of his own. North Melbourne, actually one of the hardest teams to score against for ruckman. And then Freo, if Sean Darcy is back, they're very tough. I think that'd be a bit easier if he's not, but they're still a few rounds away, and if Sean Darcy is back, again, that makes them one of the tougher matchups. So I'm hesitant. It's loose.
It is so loose.
The ruck line is not always the line you want to be mucking around with. He's only played 2 games, so I don't know if you can trust the scoring, but
Briggsy sounds a lot like Prusy.
You can always fall back on the break-even game, and he is someone that you're definitely trading out at round 15. Like, he's got the round 15 bye.
Yeah.
Who are you trading him to? Maybe Darcy Cameron by that point, or Max Gawn. Maybe trading back to Sean Darcy by the time he's back into the lineup. I don't know, but
oh man, I mean it's a cash grab, and like he's got now an 80. What'd you say, an 84 and a 111 built into his 5 price cycle. So if he kind of keeps popping that out, he's going to make you a little bit of cash.
Yeah.
Not to mention the cash you make when you go down to him.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't love it. I don't think I would have the guts to do it, but it's hard to put myself in that situation. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
Okay.
Again, if it gets you to something really good on the other end, maybe you consider it. But I prefer probably like the Hugh Greenwoods or the, those midfielders that I feel a bit better in their role.
We're going to talk forwards, mate. Otherwise, we dead set are going to be here for 2 hours.
Well, okay, let's talk about... we talked about Jack McRae's cogs before, so we sort of touched on there. But let's touch on these cheaper options in Ben Hobbs and Bailey Humphrey. The question here is it too late?
It sucks because you know what everyone else got for the last couple of weeks.
It's a very close call.
Now that we've had a good discussion, I'm going to explore some different trades, I think. But I don't mind the idea of picking somebody on the up and kicking someone out who's on the down. I don't mind the feel of that for your cash gen and for everything.
And we've got those 3 trades, so even if you get an injury, there's still a way to get out of those kind of riskier picks.
Yeah. There's every chance that I bring in Hobbsy this week. I've already got Humphrey. I got him last week. This is the last week.
This is the last week.
This is the last week where it wouldn't feel absolutely dirty.
Break even at 39. He's come up against North Melbourne.
He's going to go 100 again.
I think he's probably still at least 15 points unders of what I expect him to average in the current role with Setterfield and Parrish out.
Yeah.
What's the time frame? Are they getting closer? That's the other thing we should probably
Parrish
monitor.
should still be a couple of weeks. It's round 14 bye, and I don't think that either of them are coming back before then.
You probably wouldn't if you're the Bombers, especially with the matchups you've got.
Yeah, silly. You wouldn't do that.
So, look, I think you could go that way. I'd be trying to maybe look for that next guy if you could, because I'd probably rather Humphrey over Hobbs at this stage because the cash you'd save.
Yeah.
And the buy round is probably a bit better. You've got him for that round 15 buy, round 14 buy. So I probably prefer him there because Hobbs you might not even use in round 13.
Yeah.
So I'd probably, if you don't have either, I'd go Humphrey over Hobbs, but it is definitely the last week.
Yeah, Humphrey's got a lower break even there as well as 10. Okay, should we finally get to some people's Twitter questions?
Marathon Pod!
This is a huge podcast.
Let's keep it going! Thank you for tuning in, guys. I could talk about this shit all day.
Mate,
but,
mate, there'll be nobody tuning in at this point. An hour and 13 minutes. My days.
Let's answer some cheap people's questions.
Got lots of spare time on their hands.
I like this first one from Luke Woods. Have you got that one there?
No, you read it out to me, mate.
What do we do with Jack Steele? Do we trade him at his buy? That's a tough question to answer. Because what do you do with Jack Steele? Have we confirmed like an injury that he's got?
Your guess is as good as mine. Well, does he now fit the category? I know
Let's throw Brad Crouch into that scenario as well.
Okay, so these are guys that they're not outperforming what we expect them to average. They're underperforming. But can you still do the similar thing that you were thinking of doing with like an Errol and like go down?
The problem is they don't have the cash on their head. They don't like.
Yeah, he's like, what's he?
Errol's 120k more than Steele.
That's disgusting. How are we living in a world where that's happening?
Yeah. So, my gut, my instinct, my knee-jerk reaction is to hold them, and they're going to get you through the buys.
Yeah, you were expecting to hold him this week anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The hope is that because I think with Steele, he's carrying something.
Yeah.
He's obviously not right physically.
Yeah.
And we've kind of seen a few instances of that. And the hope is that after a week off, he freshens up, he comes back, and he goes bang.
Depending on when you purchased him as well, if you trade him now, you're cashing in that loss.
Yeah, you're banking it in.
Yeah.
So my gut for both he and Crouch is hold.
Okay, I'll get.
I know some people, and I haven't owned either of them. I mean, I owned Steele at the start of the year, but I traded him. But I know I haven't been an owner of Crouch, so I'm not very emotional when I say this sort of stuff. So you might just be sick of watching it.
Oh, yeah.
And I know Holmesy has been waiting for this round to trade him out.
But you see what he pops a 114 on the weekend, so it just makes your life a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it makes it easier. I mean, it makes it harder in terms of the decision, I guess. But I am in the camp that you hold those guys because there's not much value on their heads. You can't do as much with it. So those are my thoughts.
Have we got any other questions? I reckon. Hopefully, we've answered a lot of these questions in our discussion. But are there any there that stand out to you?
Any D6 defenders better than Luke Ryan or Hayden Young under 800k?
Sub 800k defenders. Let me have a little look-see-dook-see.
Well, we talked about Bailey Dale before. I like him. Yeah.
Redmond fits into that category. But Bailey Dale, I think, would be my pick in terms of those guys.
Yeah, I think Bailey Dale, or if it's a short-term play, you could look at some of those Essendon boys that are going to go up in price.
Yeah. If it's like a get you through the buys kind of thing, I wouldn't necessarily mind Redmond.
Here's another question for you. Thoughts on Elliot Yeo?
No.
No to Yeo?
No Yeo.
He's a guy that we've named a lot of loose picks in this podcast. And even Elliot Yeo is too loose for me.
It's too loose. It's the kind of...
I just have no confidence in his body. I have no confidence in the team.
That derails your season if it goes poorly.
Yeah.
And it's not even one of those ones you go, oh, bad, damn, I copped a bullet. No. That bullet was always coming for you if you picked up Yeo.
You can't.
So I think that my opinion there is no.
Yeah, I just it's not, the break even's not low enough. I haven't seen the runs on the board yet. I just wouldn't feel confident enough. So no to Yeo.
Do you think the helmet's cheap enough for a punt? This is another question we've had. He's cheap, but I was expecting maybe a little bit from him on the weekend.
Well, he scored well, but the roll wasn't there.
He was still sub 100, wasn't he? Or did he go?
I think he went 100 plus.
Did he?
From memory?
That would have had to been one of the first times this year.
But he was on the wing. He was on the wing and actually had 0 CBAs on the weekend with no Clayton Oliver. So fucking go figure. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing here. But what did he have? Oh, so he had 92. So, yeah, I guess he didn't turn up. I say no. I don't think you can do it. I'd rather go with some of those Essendon guys that, again, the price is going up, the break-even's low, so you can at least hide behind that, and they've got probably better matchups. So, I'm a no one. Oliver, Brayshaw.
A lot of these questions we sort of have addressed in our discussion. Top 3 rookies, sub 400k options this week. There's, it's cobwebs.
No one. There's
tumbleweeds
that.
And crickets.
There's the Irishman. The Irishman. Look out. Can someone tell me how many, because I actually didn't watch that game, unfortunately, but did we get a lot of Irishman quotes? I'm sure we would have. And we actually got an Irish fella actually commented on tweeted at me and
said... Oh, did he say we butchered it?
Well, no, he said, thank God someone else have noticed it because it gives him the shits too, as someone from Ireland, that they all they do is refer to them as that. So shout out to that gentleman there.
He scored a 56 on debut.
Yeah, no, he had a good game.
Yeah, and
yeah, I think he'll hold his spot, break even of 5. So I think he's probably the best shout of the bunch. The only thing you're worried about there is Chris Scott at Geelong. Round 13 bye. The nervous thing is, like, if you just wait 1 week and then get him off his bye, if he's still there, I think that's the best scenario. It could pay off if you go him now and he's still there around 14, then that's great. But that is the risk you take. You get him for 1 week and he's got his bye, and then that's kind of a reset. They get some of their players back healthy and he's out again. So, but I'd say he's probably the best of the bad bunch.
I mean, this is you've now missed the boat on guys. I mean, Wardlaw, if you don't have him already, is priced below 400k. But are you going there if you don't have him already, or is it you've missed the boat?
No,
it's like
some people have said Ned Long from Hawthorn had a huge game in the twos, but again, you haven't seen it at AFL level, so it's hard to launch into that.
He's 386. So.
We've got the bin.
The bin.
For Carlton, if
call
he
him
gets
before?
named, Oscar.
Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah, so maybe he is a guy, but it is this round that I'm very hesitant to trade into those rookies sight unseen.
Yeah.
Because their bye rounds are coming up, and we've said it before, it's a reset time. No matter how well they play, they're always prone to getting dropped coming off their bye.
Agreed.
Because 2 weeks is a very long time in the AFL.
I think most of these questions we've kind of answered in our discussion, but here's one that's an interesting sort of
Let's
debate.
end on this one.
Yep. Is hungry. Is it even worth trading guys like Drury or Chesser when they have no cash on their head? I think you kind of addressed it a little bit in terms of fixing up red dots. What are your thoughts?
The way I'm seeing it, normally I would do it this round because you're getting in guys that you're helping yourself get more playing, and even though they've got no cash, you've got that third trade. You can potentially still do one down, one up, and then a third one just kind of sideways. You kind of move.
Yeah.
I'm actually planning on doing that, fingers crossed, next week, because next week, like we sort of said a few times, you're going to have a lot of players playing, potentially having 22 on the ground.
Yep.
So if you're making an upgrade, how much is that actually improving your team next week? And the bonus for next week when you're fixing around red dots, say, for example, you do have someone coming off their bye as a rookie.
Yep.
Well, then that's the perfect time to trade into them because then they're the ones that are actually going to help you throughout the bye rounds because there's the potential that they're going to be there. Whereas these other rookies that you're trading into now are going to have their bye rounds in 2 or 3 weeks. It's just awkward. So, look, it's a play, and you could be rewarded, but because of the confidence I have in the ones that you're trading into this year, I'm not so keen to do it. I'm keen to do it next week because I'm not going to improve my side too much next week because I've already got basically 18 premiums playing next week, so I'm not actually getting an extra premium to my 18 than I would if I just fix my red dots next week.
Yeah, I think it's a good way of looking at it, and it's obviously it's the first time this year that
We've
people
had the
are looking at that
4
strategy.
and the
So
2.
yeah, I don't mind it as a player. I'm interested to see whether it comes off.
Yeah, so next week my hope is to do some rookie fix-ups, generate some cash, bank a bit of cash so I can make a big upgrade in round 14 and attack those 14 and 15 rounds and get some final rookies off the ground. Is at least the way I'm planning for it.
Beautiful.
But who knows? We'll probably cop a bunch of bullets and it won't happen. But we'll see. We'll see how we go. But that'll conclude this mammoth episode of the podcast today, guys.
Huge, mate.
Happy bye rounds, guys. Hopefully we all shine and it's going to be a big round for us and a big next few rounds for us. So thank you for listening. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Give this video a big thumbs up and we will see you all on Friday afternoon for our live show. Until then, we'll catch you later. Bye.